What a lovely website we have found ourselves on. I had the shift yesterday and the day before that. It got in the way of me wanting to do something, but that's all right because I can try again today. Um, I'm going to try to make this stream a little bit more special than what we normally get because it must have been about 2 or 3 days ago. I realized, wow, Saturday is going to be because I always try to stream on Saturday unless I'm really, really busy and just caught up with stuff. But I said Saturday is the 16th anniversary of when I made my channel. Wow. Um, it's so hard to just flash back to back then, but it was about 3 years after YouTube had been founded, and in the past, I just watched videos on there. I used to have this one desktop computer that was in my bedroom, and I wasn't even entirely sure of like what content to make, but I just made a channel. I think I might have also been motivated by the desire to just be able to, because back then YouTube had, and it still exists, but it's not as readily used, favorites. So you would take videos and you put them in your favorites category, and that would be like the stuff you liked more than anything else. Um, and I was pretty smitten with that feature. I used to think it was so cool when I'd go on somebody else's channel and they'd have either the same favorites as me, or they saw something that I saw, or maybe in some cases, I was just curious about what their favorite stuff on the site was. And I remember YouTube used to have a feature where you could make your account any series of colors that you wanted. If you knew the color combination, the zero, like the numbers, you would be able to make it the color that you wanted. And I think I had a green, and I had like a green and red pattern at one point, or red on top of red. It was pretty goofy. But no, I remember that I made stuff nowhere near as consistently, but just kind of on and off for the first, I'd say 5 or 6 years of having a channel. And I just said forget it and decided to relaunch back in 2015. And ever since then, it's been the way it's been for the last since then, in terms of just making stuff as regularly as I do. Um, the site has changed so much. I remember YouTube Friends. I remember there were like little scandals with me and other people. I was like, "Why? How come you didn't accept my friend request?" That was. I guess I was a lot more open to the idea of internet friends back then than I am now, where it's just everything is like I know I most certainly wasn't as cynical, and I guess that's the part that like I don't tend to invoke nostalgia, but I always look back at that like 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 12 period with like a fondness because there was a time where like I remember, first girl I ever asked out like turn me down, whatever. Like during that period, there was really this idea that things were just beginning. Like there was hope, right? There was this is before people that I was very close to had passed away. So it was just an era where sometimes a bad thing will happen. Oh, maybe this video that you made didn't get as many views as you wanted, or maybe you got a B on a test instead of an A. But as long as you have these people in your corner and you keep trying, you'll see something, or things will get better. I wish I had the same level of optimism today. And I know some people get upset about content where a person, they have these discussions about pills, right? But I've always said I'm an individual who, if I can be made to believe something if I see proof or evidence of it. Like I remember back when I had, what, 100 subs, and that was, and then all of a sudden in, like, 2017, there was just a period where it went all the way to 2,000, and after that, it stopped. So when I say I will probably always have just 2,000 subs, it's not me intending to say that I'm unappreciative for that amount or that, I'm just this extremely negative person. I go, no, there's a pattern where year after year, the sub count stays relatively the same. I've gotten some more, but I'm at a point where I'm so used to just having that same number that it really doesn't bother me anymore. I'm much more excited when I see people watching something. Um, but it's so surreal to think about how much has happened. Like, a lot of these other sites, Facebook, Twitter, Discord, Skype, they've all come and gone in various incarnations. I know Twitter's the only one where I've actually like given it a few chances, but YouTube is like the only one where I'd have to say if it weren't around, I'd feel very disenfranchised because it's always been the one place where I could go. And even as someone who wasn't making content, still feel like there was a purpose to going there, in terms of people would put up sometimes commentary or, movie review. We just had Deadpool and Wolverine come out yesterday. I didn't even realize it came out yesterday. That's how just out of the proverbial film sphere I've been. But, I remember those old reviews. Somebody would sit in front of their camera and talk about if a movie was good or if it was horrible and then explain why. And then if people didn't agree with them, then that would be one thing. Um, you've had people who I remember when they used to post movies in parts, they would put up part one, part two, part three, part four, part five, and just another showing of how much YouTube has changed. Now people are posting whole movies. Now companies that make movies post their films in there. There have been some companies that post their own TV shows on here, which is actually very smart in my opinion because they can get paid, ads through here as well as whenever it reruns on TV. I wish more companies would be less stingy with their content. Like when they offer it for free, posting it on here where there's guaranteed to be ads that play on it, I think is very smart from a business standpoint because people who might not have wanted to directly pay for it can now sample it, and if they like it, they can go and get it if they want to support it or own it or whatever. I remember the 5-star system. I remember there was at one point when they switched from stars to likes, I'll never forget when that Friday song came out, and that was like the first time I ever saw an accredited musician put up a video and just get mostly downvoted. They've always had just a lot of weird stuff on the site. Like I've seen people who describe the early years of YouTube as being kind of like uncharted territory, and they're not lying. Like there's videos, either their original versions are still up or people have, they posted like they call it a mirror, where someone will just advocate for another person or group of people to end it all, so to speak. And it's so crazy watching that kind of stuff now where even a lot of comment sections are like really moderated to where you can just put in certain terms and it'll like automatically get held for review. So to just see people in videos saying, do this or do that, it just shows you how much the site has changed. Mm. Yeah, those are the reminiscences of a childless cat lady. I wasn't even trying to make this political, but I really don't know what Vance was thinking with that comment. I think it'll be something that people keep hammering that ticket over for the next couple of months. Mm. And I was making the point in the video. I said, the part that drives me the craziest about that is it's becoming more and more normal for Americans to just not have kids. Um, and I made the point during the video of like, I would have given my right arm to have a family, but um, there's always been this thing where you're kind of like caught in between a rock and a hard place in terms of you either meet a woman who says she wants to have kids, but she doesn't like you romantically, so that's nothing for you, or you meet one who says that she likes you romantically, and remember, they say it doesn't mean they actually mean it, and then she reveals that she doesn't want to have a family. And I was trying to explain to these because I remember I mentioned that there was like a guy who said that I'm the only person he knows that asked a woman about having kids in what he termed the initial stages. But really, ever since the internet got involved with this stuff, a lot of these, I guess, women that are more receptive to me tend to be ones that live further and further away, like in sometimes other parts of the US, sometimes other parts of the world. So inherently, this means that it's going to be a while, could be months or a year, before I can see this person in person. And it's like they don't seem to understand the reality that if someone is disenfranchised, they're going to need more to believe in the future of this dynamic than just, words. Like there just has to be more concessions and more reason for this person to believe in a prospective future with this individual, if they're to be invested in something that you're really asking for a leap of faith here with. I even made this point. I said, it's funny when someone is, like, let's say you're around some woman you think is like pretty. Uh, you can't touch them, you can't feel them, because you may like the person, but they don't like you back. You can't just put your hands on this person. But I said, isn't it interesting that you have a woman who says she likes you online that lives in another country, another, some state that's hundreds and hundreds of miles away, and you can't feel or touch her either. So isn't it interesting that they're saying, or one of them is saying explicitly that she likes you, and the other one is just kind of ambiguous or outright is like, no, I don't want you. But you get the same result either way of like this, lack of ability to feel any type of connection with them, even something as minor as like hand holding or, just touching the person. Uh, I just thought it was interesting. It's just like from the perspective of they always make it sound as if you're wanting so much, but even the most minor of stuff you still can't do with just how poorly formatted these things are. But originally, I had planned to try and get a little bit of sleep and then start this at like 4. But I said, you know what? I'm laying here. I yawn, yeah, every now and again. But in all seriousness, that's something I do all the time. Um, More often than not, if I get at least 5 hours of sleep, I should be good for the day, 5 or 6. I mentioned before my job gave me one of the worst, and I do mean worst schedules I've ever had, where it was, I believe Thursday. Actually, no, I remember because that was the day that the thing with that woman and her conspiracy theory was initiated, where it was a Wednesday that started at 7 and ended at like 12 or 1 in the morning, and then the next shift was the following day, and it started at 11 a.m. and ended at 4 p.m. So I had to leave late, I guess you could say early in the morning, and then come back up there early in the morning. That whole shift, I was going, I was gonna blow the whole house down. That really is one of the worst just schedules I've ever had at any job, period. Like I used to think the crappiest one was when I was working for that company year before last year, and they would have it to where like Monday through Thursday was like 11, excuse me, like 12 in the afternoon, maybe 1 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon. Um, and every Friday was like 6 a.m. to 2 in the afternoon. It drove me nuts. I said, how in the world can you expect somebody to get off at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and then have to go to sleep at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock so they can get a few hours before they have to get up ridiculous. Any, um, having to get up that early after getting off the day before that late is insane. That's before one of the problems I've had with a lot of these jobs are the like extremely fluctuating schedules with mine, where the earliest a shift will start for me is 11 in the morning, and the latest one will end for me is 2 in the morning, and it's ridiculous. It's insane. Hmm. But they don't seem to realize that, unfortunately. And it is unfortunate because they think they're like saving themselves, I guess, some money or some people, but in all seriousness, they're just being jerks because if your workers don't have the stamina to do this stuff because you're not giving them enough time to just like to go home and actually get some sleep. Just like if I always had the like fantasy of my job having me come in at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. every day and then getting off at 1 or 2 in the morning because it's like at least then you get to sleep all morning, have a little bit of fun in the afternoon, and then for the rest of the day just be at work. Like at least with that, you get some consistency, right? Where you can kind of like prep yourself for it. Because I've had people who've told me these fluctuating schedules do mess up your body. You can't adjust to anything in particular because you're waking up and getting and going to sleep at all these different times to where it would probably drive anybody nuts. But of course, they don't care. That's like the one consistent through line of every job. They do not care about their employees. Unless you're a manager, they'll throw you out without even a second thought. That's something I've come to realize. The only thing good that's come out of this past couple of weeks is that they're giving me more hours. Although I guess when I say that, I should shut up because then I'll jinx myself. It's like next week is 4, and then after that's going to be 2 again. That seems to be my luck with these people. No, I was just really disturbed by some of the stranger things that happened up there. I actually was I came in, I think it was, yeah, it was the day before yesterday, so yeah, Thursday. And I went to order something, and one of the managers was taking my order, and all of a sudden I noticed that it was like it's already half off, but then it was, well, it's half off when that horrible one isn't there, the one that tries to cheat me out of a discount. But I noticed it was half off of being half off, and I was like, "Did you take it properly?" Just to clarify, because I didn't want to pay for it. Now you only get one of this, and um, he bought one for me. I was surprised, to say the least. It's I don't know, little stuff like that just gives me, I guess, a tiny bit of hope for humanity. Because I've always said I try not to impose myself on others, and it's always I've made it very clear that I'm never not going to believe that the people who call themselves being concerned about you and loving you and all the rest of that stuff should assist you with basic utilities. Um, so when I criticize them, it's always that same like pair that I'm speaking about. But with others, I don't expect them to do anything. So it just surprised me if one of them does. I couldn't believe it. I think the eyes popped out the back of my head. I was, what's this? No, there's always those little tiny acts of decency. I appreciate. You know, they sometimes feel like they're far few and in between, but they happen every now and again. But no, I've tried very hard to always just have like a clarification with. I guess I'll put it this way. For me, the dating stuff started as just wanting to go on a date. Because it's like you go to, I mentioned before, I went to multiple schools, but like, going to middle school and high school. And you see your classmates holding hands, just doing little gestures. And you wonder, how come you don't have someone to do that with? It starts to kind of dawn on you like, wow, this looks like something that might be enjoyable. And I always thought that like if you just try hard enough, right, maybe you'll be able to. But I was so disgusted by really what I felt was almost an extreme difficulty to get something that I thought was just like a very basic thing that people had before, but also the people around me. And when I say around me, more specifically the ones on the internet that were doing the whole like, you must capitulate to a woman, you must wear this, get this, go here, have that, just crazy. And that's one of the reasons why I said the juice isn't worth the squeeze because I guess it's like this to give you another comparison. I could say, and it's not my dream to have this because if it was, I would have quit a long time ago. But like, let's say I say, oh, uh, I desire nothing more than to have 1 million YouTube subscribers, right? And you say, okay, if you want 1 million, you just have to make, uh, you know, you have to partner with at least a million other content creators, right? So they all like we all do the sub for sub thing, and then you also need to buy this specific type of camera and buy this type of mic and film in a studio with some background that has like 15 or 16 different drawings that you illustrated and behind you and share it across every single website. No, you would sit there and be like, okay, look, this might have been something I wanted, but the extent to which you are expecting me to do for that thing that, I can frankly live without, um, makes it to where it's just not worth it. And I do think it's important for people to have standards when it comes to the goals they have and what they're willing to do to get them. So like for example, we had this crazy girl on Piscord about maybe, let's see, today's the 27th. That was I think the 12th. So like yeah, about 2 weeks ago, who said that she liked me romantically. And it's like, okay, um, even if I were to believe that, which I did not, but even if I were to believe that, you're talking about a girl who lives in another country who is like adamant, I don't want to have kids. And like, okay, well, there's not really an incentive for me to pursue this because I'm nowhere near financially astute to even be able to just like get up and go over there, next week or next month or hell, even next year at this point. But uh, you're not able to go over there, so you can't like touch this person, and they're denying you your long term goals. The prize, the thing you've wanted for so long. So, what is the incentive to have any desire to be with them? Anyone see a reason? I don't. But again, it's like I'm not saying that to be a jerk or to talk trash about someone. I really mean that when people are adamant about, look, I want this, this is important to me, and somebody else stands in the way of that, you don't have to sit here and just take it and put up with it. I mean, if people are going to sit here and be crazy and not assist you with things, and in many cases actively stand in the way of those goals. 'Cause I said before, like in relationships, there's always compromise, and I just don't see why I would have to give up on a lifelong goal to be with this woman. Now, of course, somebody could argue, oh well, you could just date her for a while or maybe like a few months or whatever. But it's like, okay, but then we already know that we're headed to oblivion, right? Because no matter how much I like this person, how much they like me, they're not going to compromise on one of the only things I would have any reason to look forward to in a relationship with a woman. So it's like, again, what are we doing here? Like, why would I attempt to further this if it's going to hit a wall and then we're just going to like never be able to see eye to eye? Like, I don't. That's why I said this stuff doesn't make sense. But I feel like that's something you could say about a lot of things in the modern era. That was pretty funny to have her say that I'm boring, or that conversations with me had reached a stale point of disinterest. I said, man, and I made the avatar comparison where like you have the elements blocked off. You got air, water, fire, and earth, and you can only use like air because the other one's just blocked off. I have a lot of stuff I talk to people about. I have one person where we might talk about the news. We might talk about different TV shows and cartoons we both liked. We might talk about relationship stuff. Um, in many cases, we might even talk about wrestling. So it's like with this girl, she doesn't hear about the news. Obviously, knows nothing about wrestling, and doesn't care to find out about it. Um, as far as I can tell, has no show or movie that's of particular interest to her. So really, the only thing you can speak about her with recurringly is just like drama stuff that like overlaps with a lot of these crazy encounters with women. So I don't know. It kind of feels like she pigeonholed herself, where it's like you're not willing to talk to this man about something that's less so in your comfort zone. So you're gonna just like blame him for your own refusal to even attempt to do something. Like how do it's so like when I read those her stuff, I just felt so disgusted because I know when I have a conversation with people, it can, especially someone that I actually like and that have mutual interest with, it can go on for hours just shifting from topic to topic. And with a lot of these like personality deprived um chicks, it's just not the case that I can do that. And that's one of the reasons why I don't really like talking to them, because many times I'm not able to, let's go ahead putting it, I'd be making the avatar comparison, but it just feels like you're stuck in this rut where you cannot express yourself to the fuller extent that you might be able to if you were talking to, someone who had more interest in common with you. which is unfortunate. And I do mean that in complete sincerity. I think it is extremely, pointless to start talking with someone and having like hours long calls with them, just you and them, and then like a week later, 2 weeks later, well, I'm sorry, Justin, but I don't think this will work, and I think you're a good person, but I just don't believe we're compatible to speak to each other. It's like, Bimbo, what was the last 2 weeks? I mean, give me a break. But that's what they do. They sit there and they say one thing and do something else. And some people really are just that crazy. I'd hate to, kind of like just get to such a like boring conclusion, but some people really are just that crazy where they will actually convince themselves there's like something wrong with you when they're the ones that when they are the one that destroyed something or made it not work anymore. It's crazy. So last Tuesday was so bad when I did the stream to where I didn't even bring up how much that election had just changed in a couple of weeks. Like after that shooting, right? And then, you know, I guess if you want to go back even further back, we had the debate was only what, a month ago, and look at how much has changed. One candidate isn't even in the race anymore. The other one, thankfully survived someone trying to do one of the worst things that would even be possible this year. Um, his running mate said something really dumb 2 or 3 years ago, and that's getting played all over the news. It's surreal just how much has shifted in such a short amount of time. Also, by me, I have the memoir of the 47th president of the United States, Kamala Harris, "The Truth We Hold." So I was just reading some of it over earlier today. I got this last year. She put this out before her presidential campaign, but I didn't read it until after the fact, after the disaster campaign. It's real fun watching people bring up her campaign. She dropped out before they had any primaries. Like, yeah, I know. I was there. I remember. And look at where we are now. And then my favorite thing has been to see a lot of these conservatives who are talking about how the Democrats didn't have a primary. This is their anointed person. And I said, well, okay. I don't like the process in which this was done. I wish Biden had dropped out, had announced he wasn't going to run for another term, back in March or April of last year, so we could have had an actual legitimate primary. But in my view, they're the last people who should be talking to anyone about protecting the virtues of democracy when they were part of an attempt to overthrow an election with January 6th. I mean, it's not they should be they're not in a position to lecture anyone on democracy. Mm. And like I said, I see all the points that have been made. How does a person who didn't win a single delegate in 2020 end up as the most likely? We don't know if the convention, it hasn't been confirmed, but it's in all likelihood most going to be her as nominee. How's a person who didn't win a single delegate in 2020 end up as the Democratic nominee in 2024? And I said, it's very simple. People were so sick of Trump 4 years ago, they voted for this old man who lost the first three states in his primary. And he got the endorsement of another old man who said, "Hey, look, if you want my support, you're going to have to name, someone of this whatever as your running mate." So uh, he picked Harris. It didn't deliver many votes, but it wasn't like poison for the ticket, and they won. And we've known that ever since she was selected, if anything happened to Biden, she would be his heir apparent. It's so surreal to think that if Harris wins in November, which I am leaning towards right now, again, just because of like the Trump unpopularity, but it's just I could go either way. I think it's too early to tell. She's only been running for about a week now, a little bit under a week. But it's crazy to think that if Harris were to win, this would be the first time we've had two Democrats as president back to back since JFK and LBJ. It's kind of surreal to think about. It's always one of them gets elected, either to one term or two terms, and then their party tries to keep control either with that same person or the vice president or some other like cabinet member, and they fail, and then the Republicans get the White House for usually 8 years. I can say this: I don't know for sure if Harris will win. Again, I lean towards her winning, but she will most certainly win the popular vote. That's for sure. I keep having that thing Haley said just going off in my head every day. Like Republicans have lost the popular vote in 7 out of the last eight presidential elections. It's like, you guys still don't know why. Nobody likes you. You have the worst positions on the environment and education. They don't even talk about education other than when they want to do their little. And that's what's sad to me. It's like imagine having a country where you have $1 trillion in student loan debt. People they go to school, they come out with an anchor by their leg. And the only thing any of these conservatives don't talk about when it comes to education is indoctrination, and they're banning books. It's like most of you guys don't even read anyway. Like, give me a break. That's why when MTG put out her book, no one bought it. And certainly those who bought it didn't read it. Hell, I mean, I don't think anyone read Noam's book besides the chapter on what she did to that poor animal, or those poor animals, I should say. And then I mentioned that Carrie Lake's book was so like rancid that I was able to get a signed copy by accident because someone returned it after only having it for like a few months. And then even though they got it signed by her, they're like, I don't want this anymore. And then sent it back to Amazon. And then I ordered one and it had her signature on the, and I knew it was a signed copy because she's the only person I've ever seen that signs the dust jacket instead of inside the book. It's been such a crazy week in the world. Like you had Netanyahu give this speech. I didn't even watch it. I'm gonna try to see if I can sit down and watch it today. But Harris Dodge going to it. Talib was wearing holding some war criminal thing or button or whatever. It's just been wild. It feels like 1 week now is the equivalent of a month. Like I still can't believe we only have August, September, October, November, and then it's election day. And it's like it's not even technically what 4 full months. It's like it's 3 more full months until we find out what this what the result will be. It's pretty surreal to think about. But I couldn't convince because I guess what it's like this. I'll look at a trend in recent political history and I'll become convinced that this trend will stick. Like I thought um initially that especially after Sanders like dropped out the race that Trump was going to get a second term, right? Even though we had some polls that were showing, Biden leading, whatever, he underperformed his polling. And I thought that because it seemed like every president was getting 2 terms, right? And it would just switch back to the other party, but that trend broke with him. Um, and historically, every president that's been eligible to run for a second term, in the ones after Johnson anyway, have all attempted to get another term or a full term, whatever. So when Biden stepped down after being in this race for what, a year and 3 months for, because I remember he announced early last year. So to run for a whole year and then like get this close to the actual election, like, nah, it did surprise me. That is one morning I will never forget. So that Sunday, I was supposed to work a shift at my job. I was sleeping. I call myself sleeping in a little bit. It was like 11, 12 o'clock. Again, a lot of these shifts are in the afternoon or evening. And I look on the computer. I go on the Hill because that's always the news site I use. And I see something, something Biden dropped that. Like, what? And then I go and I look further and I start going on YouTube and I see one of it was the Young Turks had a stream that was playing where Cenk was like talking about it. And then there was another, yeah, Status Quo, right? And I was like watching them simultaneously or like at the same time, kind of playing one over the other. It's like, this is insane. And then that's when I was like, okay, I got to sit down and do the video. But that is one Sunday I will never forget. That thing came out of the blue, just all that bravado about I'm not going anywhere. I'm the only one that can beat Trump. It's so surreal. Like, oh, here comes the zoo again. It's either the dogs or the chicken or the cats. There's always one of them over here making some noise. No, I had this one person that was asking me, when's the Nixon documentary going to start? I said, I don't know. I mean, I've got about an 8 or 9 page script of it so far for part one. Um, Again, it's just a lot of days that I don't have of work. I have to like run these side quests and missions, so it kind of like takes me over just being able to sit down and type something out. And the fact I don't have a chair makes it a little bit harder to just like, I guess, get in the mood to do it. But I'm trying. We're getting there piece by piece, brick by brick. I can't guarantee that it'll be done this. Well, I'm not going to say this week. Most certainly not. But I'll be very surprised if I'm still doing it by the end of next month. I think it should be done by then. Such an annoying dog. I would love to make some of those parallel videos, like where you just compare different historical figures to each other in terms of either their lives or just things that are like really similar. Like I was gonna say that uh, Obama has more in common with, I mean, instantly, like you would think of 2 term presidents, right? It's like Clinton, Bush, Reagan. And I was going to say that one of the things that gave Obama and Reagan another parallel is that they both have a vice president who later on wins a term of their own and only ends up serving 1 term. Again, there's differences, right? Bush 41 was the incumbent vice president, Biden was a former vice president. But again, both get a full term, and they are at one point or another a candidate for a second one, and one makes it to the general election, one bows out for their VP to take over. But that would just be like another little like thing to add in there in terms of making them similar to each other. But yeah, the way it would go would be just Obama, Bush, Obama, Reagan, Carter and Trump have a lot of parallels. It's actually kind of crazy. And I was even thinking of doing one on like Johnson and Nixon. I said before they have a lot in common. Just stuff that people don't even talk about. But because when's Johnson's birthday? It's at some point in August. Let me see. I always forget the day. Okay, 27. I was saying, wow, it's a month from now. But I was saying it would be kind of interesting to do a like Johnson Lincoln comparison deal because a lot of people talk about the Kennedy Lincoln coincidences, but there are like several overriding things about Johnson and Lincoln, like where they both grow up in like relative poverty and they have some dad that they kind of have like a strained relationship with. Most certainly, they both favor their mothers. Um, multiple siblings. Um, oh, and then of course, if we want to like, we could mention that they both lose a Senate race. Johnson in 1941, and then Lincoln, I believe that was in 1858. And when they both become president and inherit a war, right? So Lincoln had the Civil War, Johnson had Vietnam. There's just a lot of stuff that I find analogous between the two of them. And I feel like people don't draw as many comparisons between them because it's easier to like look at Lincoln and Kennedy and go, oh yeah, they both were like for furthering civil rights and they're martyrs. Like, okay, there's a few things that they have in common, right? But I just don't like when we're talking from a standpoint of just how their lives went. I think Lincoln and Johnson overlap way more. So if I don't get to do LBJ Part 7 by next month, which would be nice because that's, I mean, if I could finish it in the next 4 weeks, but I have barely any of it done. So I don't think that'll happen. It would be really good because then we could put it out on Johnson's birthday. But if I were to hypothetically just not finish it, a good compromise video would be the Johnson Lincoln comparisons or parallels rather. But again, I don't know for sure if I'll do it or not. Yeah, it's just so difficult sometimes, like writing scripts to things, and you start a little piece of it here, and then you leave it alone for a little bit. Because sometimes you'll get really excited about one video, and then you're like, "Oh wait, I want to do this other one. No, I want to do this other one." Like I have a lot of drawings that I'll just start on and then just never finish. And sometimes they'll range from something I just barely did any of to like a really big picture where I'm like, okay, I'll do this in parts. Do a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow. But sometimes I truly just don't come back to it. I don't like that, but it happens. There have been instances where I start a script for something and after like a page or two, I just don't know what to write anymore. Just like I was telling this one person about the how I kept having such a hard time making a top 10 presidents list. Um because I'd always come up with about 8 that I think should be in like a top 10. And then after that, it was just like, you know, like I tried as hard as I could be to be objective. I have my supposed liberal slash progressive bias, but uh, it was always Lincoln, Washington, FDR, and then, Jefferson, TR, and then like, of course, the three of FDR's like immediate predecessors. So Truman, Eisenhower, and Johnson. And then after that, it just got blank, and it was always this toss up between Jackson and Wilson, and um, like I'm not a fan of Wilson, but in terms of actually like changing history, I mean, the United Nations by itself is like just a big indicator of that. But eventually, I settled on just throwing in Jackson and Polk, Old Hickory and Young Hickory. Yeah, so that would probably make up my current top 10. And I remember I was doing like a top 10. What was the other one? But no, I just that this was like the first time I was ever just go, okay, I'm gonna put this one in there and that one in there. Polk is a really underrepresented president. Like I've never seen someone so consequential just never get talked about or mentioned, or it's really crazy. Like at this point, it looks like the next documentary piece will be Nixon Part One, but Polk is definitely somewhere on my radar. It's just kind of unfortunate that someone so important just like even among people that follow this stuff, they never bring him up. It really just kind of is so lame because I've never done any of the stuff I do on here with the intention of making it my primary source of income, or because like I've just gotten so used to like, okay, you'll get a few cents a day at most, whatever. But the one thing I do kind of regret about just like that aspect of it is that I do think that it would be nice to like just fully dedicate myself to this. Like if my whole job was just make a piece of a documentary a week, we would be getting one of these every like 7 days. And I know we would because I did Johnson part one, part two, and part three before having a job. And I did part one and part two came out less than a week after part one. Because I was just writing and writing and writing and writing. That tends to be the order of these where like part one will be probably about half an hour just so I can kind of get my foot in the door, and then part two, and then these subsequent installments will be an hour long, if not longer. Especially if we're using the Stephen Ambrose Nixon series, where it's like that's going to be at least like 8 or 12 parts by the time we get through with it. Open this thing up. Imagine this stream is brought to you by Pepsi. There's the worst part about not having like a little table or something to put these on. It's the most unfortunate part. No, I've really allowed the site to just kind of change around me and see some of the things on here. And I'm glad I've adapted the mindset that I do with a lot of this stuff where I just talk about whatever I think is interesting, and if people want to watch it, they will. If they don't, whatever. Because I do think that if there's one good thing that's come from just being around the same size for so long, is you kind of just, I don't want to say become complacent, because you wouldn't still be like trying if you were totally just opposed to the idea that things would ever change, but you're not as open to being like swayed in whichever direction you think will get you the most eyes or whatever, which I do think is a good thing. Let's see if everybody's favorite bored woman is online right now. These people. Who is this? Oh, this girl changes her avatar so much I can't tell who. I was like, a new challenger now. Same old circus. But no, as I was just kind of sitting here thinking about stuff, I said, "It wouldn't it be nice if I could just get two jobs and just never be able to sleep? Just you work this job on these days and the other job the other days." And it's like, I said that yeah, it's nice to, I guess, in theory, feel more financially astute, assuming that the other job you'd be able to get is like closer to you and it's not that much of a drive. But I don't know. I said this before. My biggest problem with that stuff is I always believed that even if people have to work to make ends meet, there should still be some semblance of free time, right? Like if somebody works 40 hours a week, maybe that's enough, or at least that should be enough. Um, if you get hit with a second job that wants you to work on the same days as the other one, but in the morning, and then you have to go to the other job in the afternoon, evening, whatever, I just think it's kind of insane. Like, do you just never get to rest? But like I said, that's one of the problems I've had with the whole like internet blame the man for everything culture, where they just don't want to acknowledge the any external factors. Like, hey, this person wants to work a job and he's selling his application within 40 hours, where they only give him like 18 or 20 or some other like halved crap. And they've been doing this since he started there, especially after wages got increased. That's why I said a lot of these places just, like we know they couldn't care less about their employees, but the idea of just having to have two or three jobs just to afford one of these crappy one-bedroom apartments, I think is insane. It's like you're not even like trying to live somewhere that's really, glamorous and you have a pool in the backyard and this big open. It's like some of these places, it's literally just a room in an apartment building. Like to just sit in a room. Oh yeah, 1,800. Like, are you serious? But this is why I said that I didn't know anyone that's like under 40 that is able to live by themselves, other than in some cases couples or people that have some kind of like inheritance or thing with their parents. Like it's just so unfortunate that people try to pretend this stuff is easier than it is. It really is. But remember, if you don't make it, you just didn't work hard enough. Like I said, I was able to cut the umbilical cord of that 300 a month from that leech, but still have to worry about that 700 thing. So it really is a race to the bottom, isn't it? I was like, it's so crazy to think of how like people really despise like other human beings, and not even like I said before. I have like the one relative that did the horrible thing, at least from my perspective, and then the coworker that tried to get me fired. And like those are the two that I just can't stand and actively talk about my contempt for. But there are people who despise others who they've never even met to such an extent that if they just like hear a piece of something, oh, you must have done this wrong. Like I'll never forget when I put up everything started crumbling, leaving nothing, and I had this articulation of how you're working this job, every shift they give you, in some cases, taking other people's shifts when they don't want to work, and you just are like barely able to get by because you've got the dual leeches of the bank and then this relative. And this guy's response to that was to say, get your expletive together and you're a fully functioning adult and you sound like this, you sound triangle. I mean, it was nuts. It was like, who is this helping? But again, these people, they have like a true just disgust for other human beings because they don't see other people as people. You're just these like toys for them to play with and poke fun at and go, haha, things are bad for you. That's what you get. I mean, we talked about how delusional that relative was, like believing that they did me a favor, right? With the whole, I pay for where you live. So if you need money for food, oh well. And, I always try to explain because I remember I mentioned the one relative that was like, just because someone doesn't care for you in the specific ways in which you prefer, whatever little like head trip he put himself on in terms of just whatever way he can justify to himself not being involved, he's going to do that. But I made this point. I said, you're asking these people for assistance with essentials, things that you need to survive. If you don't eat, you will die. Um, if you're not able to go to your job because you don't have enough money to get gas, you're not going to be able to get there, and you're not going to probably be working there too much longer, and you're going to not make any money, and then you're not going to be able to afford anything, and then you will die. So, really, what I've tried to kind of like convey here is that I think it's insane. Like, if I were asking for someone to, I don't know, for example, buy me a new pair of shoes, right? Okay, fine, whatever, not non-essential. Um, but or a video game system, okay, whatever. But like basic utilities that these people just can never help you with, really. That's like normal to just, oh, I love you so much, person that I'm fine with the possible demise of. But even with that lady that had the insanity, right, to accuse me of being her ex-boyfriend, I still don't even fully know if I want to do a video on that because the problem is every time I think there's a clear-cut situation where just a woman destroyed something for no damn reason, there's always some weird guy that just comes out of the clear blue sky who will make it my fault. And I don't have to, I don't think I have enough patience to deal with that again. I mean, I've thought about different ways of doing it. Maybe I don't have to write a script. Maybe I could just like put screenshots up and laugh because it was funny for most of it. But again, it's like we should get a different response every now and again. Like people should actually be able to look at it and say, "That's messed up. Why did she do that?" They don't do that. They just they just point and stick the finger out and blame you. People talk about, "Oh, you need criticism to improve." I said, "Yeah, constructive criticism, but if you're going to have this like tunnel vision perspective where you just, no matter what happens, blame the guy, blame the guy, blame the guy, um, it's not helpful. I mean, oh, this woman came up and spit in my food. Well, you probably looked at her funny. Oh, this woman said I'm her ex-boyfriend on alt. Well, you probably typed just like him and spoke to her in ways that reminded her. It's like, man, come on. They can do anything and just not have like any critique. It's so sad. And I'm very serious in saying, like, I named the stream You've Never Seen This because there's been a lot of weird stuff with chicks over the years, right? The ex fiance that after like 5 days said never mind, and then did the whole like 2 months of stringing me along. Um, the one lady that asked me all those personal questions, I answered all of them, and then she was like, "Well, now you've answered all this, I don't think this will work. Goodbye forever." The one that asked me on a date and then turned me down. It's been quite a wild ride with them. But I've truly I can't think of anything where someone has thought, like, has genuinely thought and believed, not even just like, "Hey, have I met you before?" Like maybe like, "Oh, maybe just you kind of remind me of this person." Like genuinely believed that I am their ex-boyfriend. That's why I call it the stream you've never, because I've never seen anything like that before. I could just see the comment section now. You should have done this. The only thing I should have done, the only mistake I made was believing that if enough evidence was shown, she would drop it or apologize for it or realize that she was in the wrong. Once she decided to accuse me of being her ex-boyfriend, she refused to accept any evidence that didn't point in the direction she wanted it to be in. She decided she was going to die on that hill, and it was going to be a bloody afternoon because even after seeing my face, she still said that I was him. Utterly nuts. And the one thing I do feel a little sad about is that it was a nice dialogue. The first couple days, we're talking about writing, we're talking about book I was thinking of doing, and just like giving some different ideas. And I said, why, oh, why was that ruined? But that's why I said, I just feel like a lot of chicks have this thing inside of them, the self destruct sequence, where it's like they know that something's going pretty good. Okay, whatever, at least for the guys, on the guys' part anyway. And they're like, okay, how can I wreck this? How can I just torch whatever foundation is seemingly being assembled here? Because that's what they do. They take something that's going pretty good and they just blow it up. It's like, hey, we're having a nice time talking to each other. Not for long. That's what they do. They sit there and they make it seem like they like speaking to you or that you're, whatever, whatever. And then you get the nice reversal. It's just so crazy. I don't know. Relationships are they're a nice idea, right? Meet somebody, you like speaking to them, they like talking to you. You have things in common. Set aside time to talk to each other. Hey, you free next week? You free next Saturday, next Sunday, next Monday, next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? You and the person speak and you have some things in common, and maybe they laugh at some joke you made. But give it a few days, a few weeks, hell, even a few hours, it can all get snapped away. That's why I said the one thing I've really learned with respect to this stuff is just how much deconstruction has occurred. Like I talked about how the only girlfriend I ever had was like the biggest gold digger in American history. And man, she was as sweet as a button. I shouldn't even say that term. She was as sweet as candy back when we were just talking to each other. But once I made the oh so fatal mistake of agreeing to date her, she pulled that little Red Riding Hood mask off and the wolf came out. I mean, a whole week of just begging and begging and begging and begging. And sometimes I would just sit there and think of the sheer absurdity of it. It's like, I was 18 at the time. It's like, lady, you are 23. How are you asking a high school student for money? Like, huh? Just nuts. But like I said, the one good thing that came out of that is like I really sat back and said, this is not what I thought it would be. This is not anything resembling something decent. If this is as good as it gets, then I'd rather not bother at all. And I was serious when I made that claim. I said, again, I always had this idea, right, of how things would be, and it just wasn't so. Like it was a literal deconstruction of an idea that people had sold me for years. Everybody used to talk about how great it was to be in a relationship. Oh man, it's so nice and it's so great and this, but it was terrible. I was nostalgic for all the time I spent alone because when I was alone, there was no expectation I had to give somebody money or any of the other weird stuff. Just it was nice to just not have to put up with the very blatant using of you by someone else. People act like just because someone touches you or says that you're sweet or whatever that they like you. Like get out of here. That's why I said relationships, they look so nice on paper. They do, they really do. And like I said, I'll be the first one to admit that not everyone is the same, but the problem is the ones that are actually good are just too far few and in between. And again, the circumstances don't really allow for me to like indulge in a lot of this goofy stuff. Like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to date some woman from another country that I can't do anything with, who's already telling me that she doesn't have any long-term desire to be with me because she says she doesn't have any kids. Ooh, real thrilling. Hey, sign me up. Man, I remember the first few days over here without the internet. I thought I was being starved. That's why I said that stuff with those relatives I always thought was so funny. Just they love doing the personality and mental state examinations, but every issue comes down to money. Like, you are so rude. Okay. You are so disrespectful. Okay. So what does me being rude and disrespectful have to do with you wanting $300 again? I just find that so funny because it's like they take this stuff that doesn't matter and they stick it in front of something that does, or like a tangible thing they can try to extract out of you, and then act like their main conflict with you is that they can't extract whatever they're trying to get out of you. As if were you not rude, they would be so much kinder and not come to you demanding money. Like, no. Got a message from them today. I was just rolling my eyes. I think the one that was in the Discord women video was online. Let me see. Um, oh, she was. Yeah, she'll probably come back on and join some voice call later today. She tends to mostly appear on the weekends, from what I've noticed. Like I said, VCs with her were so boring. It's another one of the problem with these chicks on the computer where it's like they don't have a personality, so they just kind of sit there fishing for someone to respond to them by saying something outrageous like, uh, "I don't like this group of people," that kind of stuff. Or they start telling you about things related to themselves, like just and not even like something interesting. They're like, "I'm making pizza right now." It's like, okay, great. How exciting, how thrilling, how interesting. That's why I said a lot of these people, they don't have anything to talk about. Oh, I think I hear the chicken or the rooster, whatever that damn thing is. Yep, that's it. Yep. And I always know it's the same one because there's not a single other person on this entire city block that has one. It's the same guy each time, over and over again, done to death. Oh, people drive me crazy with these animals, and they're so loud. I have my windows closed, and I can still hear that stupid thing. Imagine like living with that at your house. Like whoever owns that probably has what's the word for one of those like those rooms where like the walls are really insulated where you just can barely hear anything outside. Because there's no way somebody goes to sleep with that thing and just over and over again. Oh man. It'll be an interesting weekend. This is the I think fourth or fifth one I've had since the year started where there's no work on Sunday. And that's been the most shocking thing to me because you would think a job would love having somebody work on the weekend, but I guess not. Still laughing that I remember that time Jem came to one of my streams and he was like, "Where are your parents?" It's like, dude, if you really believe that just because someone has living parents, they're going to be okay, I have a bridge to sell you. That's still one of the funniest lines to me. Like, trust me, we have seen parental failure time and time again. And the problem is, again, we live in this men despise each other era so much that you will have people that defend that kind of conduct. You are a full functioning adult. It's like, uh, I guess, whatever that means, but adults don't ever need help with anything. They're just once you become an adult, magically you can just fix every problem, solve every issue. Are you serious? But again, like this is why I said that people they don't want to think critically about things, so why bother engaging them? They just stick their fingers in their ears, go no 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 no, and you try to explain something. So it kind of just renders all attempts at conversation sort of pointless. Like, yeah, I could tell you about how screwed up things are, why they should, these people should be more involved, but you're not going to listen. So what's the point? And we know for a fact a lot of these guys they don't even watch. Like when they watch something, they turn the volume all the way down and they just like make all types of weird noises and take an instrument and make it move back and forth. It's really nasty and weird, but that's what they do. So a lot of times, like if you're talking, they're not even actually listening to you. They're just staring incessantly, sweating. I remember that was one of the weirdest descriptions I'd ever seen where like you have like people admit when they watch a woman's video, they turn the volume all the way down. It's like, why don't you just get a picture of her or take a screenshot? It's just I don't know. People just stuff I don't understand. This is the way this stuff goes, I guess. That's always been the funniest part about a lot of these, like, because I guess it's like this. I'm so used to just seeing, women that I think are conventionally attractive that when someone tries to like hype up one of them, like, oh man, she's beautiful. It's like, I guess they just what's the term if the phrase if everyone's special, no one is. Like, they're all just so breathtakingly beautiful. Oh my. I mean, I could say there are ones at my job I think look nice, but you still couldn't pay me to like actually try and talk to them and start some kind of uh, attempt at being friends or whatever else with that. Forget that. I learned I got cured once and for all after the other one did her stupid thing. I said no, that's we're finished. We're gonna be like North Korea. Nobody comes in, nobody comes out. Said forget that. Serious, that's over. Like we don't need any further attempts at continuations of that. Oh man, it's been such a wild year, I tell you, and we're only halfway through it, or like I guess slightly above halfway through it. I've always said the one thing that will stay the same forever and ever is the woman situation. I mean, every time there's like a little glimmer of something different, you get the same old nonsense. And like I said, I'm just at a point where I just kind of accepted, this is just what it is. Like, they're a rancid group, and the one that was saying she liked me 2 weeks ago. It's so funny because it's like you're aware that I don't fall for this stuff because of all the false hopes and promises of before, but then you indulge in the same, things like, oh yeah, I like you, person who wants kids, even though I don't want kids. Yeah, we should totally be together. Ha 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 ha. Come and fly to this foreign country just for me. Yeah, definitely on my way to do that. And people don't even think when they decide this stuff. They just go along with the flow, I guess. I was wondering how old is Harris's father? I should look it up. I'll probably do it after the stream is over. Because if she were to win, he'd be I think the eighth dad of a president to see their kid become president. I'd have to go and look that up too, but I know it's like a singular number. No, I don't know, I just keep thinking about how crazy stuff has become. Mm. Yeah, maybe one of these months I don't have to pay for, I don't know, an extra tire or uh, getting the oil changed in my car or I don't know, getting a mirror fixed or whatever. I can eventually invest in the chair. Be nice to have something to sit on for once. I just like I made this point on Tuesday, and I'll say it here again. I never thought I'd see the day where someone could work and have less money than when they didn't have a job at all. It's pretty nuts. But I already said before I live in the twilight zone, so I guess I'm just used to nuts things. Me and the rest of the childless cat ladies. I said, man, I tried so hard to not be part of that category. I would have, man. But I am noticing that trend now where it's like a lot of women do not want kids. And like, what's kind of scary to me is just how young some of them are, right? Like, I've seen 17, 18-year-old girls saying they don't want kids. And like, it's nuts to me because it's like, you don't even, like, I'm not usually a person that says, oh, this person is too young to decide something, but damn, like, you're this determined that you won't have that, like, that early, just never, like, and then, of course, I remember the one from, the Dear John letter writer and her saying that she'd rather be whatever blasted or something than have it's just I find the whole thing honestly obnoxious. Like I couldn't care less in most cases, but just like as a respected like for someone to pretend that they're like a respective or possible romantic partner for me and have that as something they're like proud to brag about, like get out of here. The US has a 30-year birth low or a 30-year low for its birth rate. I think a lot of that really is just these chicks being determined to not like I don't know, it seems like every time I've seen a new birth, it is always by accident. It's always with some guy that the woman's not married to. It's just a sad state of affairs. But that's why I said the US has been in this like it's an economic decline. It's a moral decline. At least with the economic decline, we can have like, a conversation about wages being stagnant and, just things like that. I don't know what you do about the moral decline because a lot of the stuff that is, let's just say these are things I would feel bad about doing. People seem to be incentivized to just be like, oh, that's okay. That's all right. Ain't no thing but a chicken wing. Oh, boy. No, we live in an era where a lot of the worst tendencies of man have been normalized and given credence and legitimacy. People are having children that they know they can't take care of, but they're having them anyway. Um, Jobs are, when forced to raise wages, cutting hours so that you still barely make anything. It's all just so menial and crappy. And I said that like it doesn't have to be this way. Um, Someone asked me what does a job get out of just having 3, 4 part-time employees instead of one full-time one. I said, well, uh, one of the things they never have to worry about when they have part-time employees instead of a full-time one is overtime. Because if they use that person to the extent of 40 hours, let's say they give them 35, right? Uh, that means if that person stays for 1 extra hour per shift, they're either going to get overtime or come dangerously close to getting it. And the one thing these places want to do, the one thing they are all desiring to do, is to see how much money they can squeeze away and out of the pockets of the people that work for them. That is their biggest, deepest desire. That's what they have like wild fantasies of, like, yes, I don't have to worry about paying you any more money. Ha 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 ha. That's them. They really sit back and just think of how many ways they can cheat somebody out of something. It's really sad. And unfortunately, a lot of the people at the like management level who aren't even like running these companies are like, we did it. We told this person they were going to work for 5 hours today. Well, we're going to send them home after 2. I'll never forget the time they did that to me. I said, imagine driving 30 miles, 20 something miles, whatever, just to work for 3 hours. They haven't done that since, but man, when they did the 2 times they did that to me, I was irritated. That's the kind of stuff that actually makes me want to quit because I'm like, okay, I'm just wasting my time out here. If you guys aren't going to give me enough hours to make anything, then what's the point? What's even the purpose? Mm. But no, it's just been such a wild couple of months. And I don't know how much more of I can take. Like I named the stream I'm finished, the one from Tuesday, and I wasn't trying to be hyperbolic. It's just that I felt like there's something so wrong about the idea that a person can work a job and then, after a shift that's like 4 hours, 5 hours, you get ready to go home, you're tired, get in your car, as you're driving, you see something in the mirror or in the windshield, rather, I should say, and that's when you find out about that lovely, stupendous, terrific, exquisite, excellent ticket. Because that's stuff like that drives me crazy. Like you got punished for trying to work somewhere, you know, and that's why I said that like for me the biggest issue is always just having these unforeseen, unexpected things to pay for, and no assistance with it, and knowing that the same people who will not give an ounce of a care about assisting you with these things will swear up and down that they love you. It's just all such a big joke. Like I even have one relative where they've been calling me for the last few days, and I just haven't been picking up because I've been thinking to myself, what's the point? Like this person's gonna call me. I'm gonna tell them about what stuff is driving me nuts or insane or whatever. They're gonna basically, for all intents and purposes, tell me to get over it, and then we're gonna like keep doing this. Like it's just that's how where sometimes, at least for me anyway, I'd like to not be scolded when I mention something that's bothering me. So like there are people I'll call, and specifically I'll call them so that I can just have a person to hear me out in terms of what's bothering me. And I don't think it is the role of the person I'm talking to about something that's bothering me to be like, well, just get over it. Oh, just, pay the thing and put it behind you. It's like, that's not the point. We're talking about somebody. being afraid that they're gonna run out of money, just because like all this stupid stuff that keeps happening every week. But again, they don't want to listen. They just want to tell you to get over it. Just get over it. So yeah, that title was not hyperbolic. That is how I felt. I was at my wit's end. I tried, man. I tried as hard as I could. The wonders of streaming on the floor. But I was saying that, I think about like the trajectory of things, and it really is a shame that the people who claim to care about you the most seem to be able to do the least for you. And when you know that they could, but they just choose not to because they actually don't care, um, it's all the more infuriating. Like, I have multiple relatives who don't know how to drive. So when I was trying to learn how to drive, I didn't get mad at them because I knew they don't have cars, don't have licenses. This is something that I'm sure if they were able to, they would assist, but they can't. But again, people love you the most. I don't ever want you to feel like you can't come to me for something. God, what a joke. So I said they all sing a good song, but when it comes to like actually doing something tangible that is beneficial in any way to the person that they claim to care so much about, couldn't be bothered. You're nothing to them. Just another display piece. Something that they can bring out every time they want to say, "Oh, look, that's someone I've helped," in quotations. Oh, but yeah, this is Pogue Volume One, and I said, the minimum, because I can't do every president, but even if I'd like to, or at least do most of them. At a minimum, I think that top 10 I mentioned earlier in the stream, and then probably like if we could stretch this to 20, which I don't think we would, but just like as an example, if it were those top 10 and Carter and Nixon that were the only ones I ended up doing in this format, getting the books, writing the scripts, editing the stuff to all the rest of it just in that same style that the Johnson series has been done in. If those were the only ones I could do, I think I'd be mostly satisfied. Hmm. Even if it's still not preferable to what I'd actually like to do. And I'm trying. And sometimes that's all we can do. Hmm. You have this commercial that is kind of driving me crazy a little bit. I think on YouTube, you see some of the strangest things on these ads. Just like I remember those Allstate ads where it's just stuff gets weird. But I don't know, it's just I always like I always thought about how, and like not having a job continuously for more than like a month in previous periods that okay, as bad as that is, if you get hired by somewhere and they keep you for more than a month, at least you'll be able to have like a steady income, right? But even in me thinking that, I've been proven wrong because again, this place will give you in some cases 3 shifts a week, in some cases 4 shifts a week, and in some cases 2 shifts a week. And like I even knew one guy, I saw him on Thursday, who said that he went a whole week without getting any damn work. I mean, they are insane. Like, I've asked the question before, who can afford to live off of a job that doesn't use them? Like, you're really an employee in name only. Yeah, this so again, in most cases, I like to, if it's possible, get multi-volume series in the various figures I do decide to do one of these on. Um, it was only after getting the 2 volumes of the bulk series that I realized they don't actually end at the end of his life. They end at the second year of him being president, which is kind of insane to think about. And then, of course, there's another book called The Presidency of Polk, and I'll probably looking to get in that one at some point. Yeah, I'm about a third of the way through volume one, and it mostly is going over his time in the House, which is not it's it is in more detail certainly than I would have been against them including. It's just that I guess I haven't reached the apex of that period, so I'm just sort of meandering along. I have to tell you, it is interesting having read through a lot of these biographies, just how there's always that overarching theme of like they'll have a first chapter or two about the subject's background and tell you a little bit about their dad or their mom, and then after that, their parents really don't get mentioned again for like the remainder of the book. And I guess for a lot of people, the period where someone is an adult would be the most interesting. But I couldn't imagine like, hey, here's the first 19 years of this person's life, all summarized in less than 40 pages. I just think it's weird. Like, I guess maybe it's because I have such vivid memories of, you know, preschool and middle school and high school that to just abridge it, like condense it. So I'm not even saying it has to be some 1,000-page book or anything, but just like, I could imagine were I using the names of people and able to just speak on pretty much anything I wanted, you probably could get 800 pages, 700. It's at least a few hundred, I know that. Especially when you get into that high school stuff, because it's like that period and probably around should I say that's the most vivid for me? Like when you go through the first few grades of school, it's kind of just whatever. But around, and even that is like there's specific stuff I remember. But around like fifth, sixth grade, when you start having people getting sick and just some of the more serious stuff that begins occurring, the first like brushes with death, as I should say, that's really where it takes off in terms of just like there's no way I could just abridge all of this into 100 pages or whatever. 100 pages, 50 pages. That was one of the reasons why I didn't like I wasn't the biggest fan of the that Ted Kennedy book that came out. I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, like in the last few years, where it just seems so abridged. It's like this man was senator for 40 plus years, and you got his whole life in a 500-page book. Are you serious? And you could just see the stuff that was being skipped over. And I said, I really don't see where, in any honest assessment, I could recommend this over other books about him that were written during his lifetime, or stuff that just didn't appear to be moving at such a rapid pace. Like it's almost as if the author's like, "Oh, I'm sick of this man already. Can we just get this over with?" And instead of, I think I've told the full story, and or at least the most essential pieces of it, because at least then I can say, okay, you're kind of trying to be comprehensive. You're not really going into as much detail as I would prefer, but I mean, hell, when do authors ever do that anymore? That's another thing I thought was so funny, that like more and more authors are getting to the point of just refusing to make multi-volume series. Like whenever we get the authoritative biography of Biden, which will not come anytime soon, but whenever that is written, it should be at a minimum 2 volumes. I mean, 36 years as a senator, 8 years as VP, the 4 years in the wilderness, and then 4 years is like, I just don't see how you can summarize all of that in one book. But I'm sure somebody will be crazy enough to try. That's the one thing we can say about people. They will do it. They will try anything and do anything. Just as a collective, we are a group that we do some strange stuff. There's almost no doubt about it. But no, it's just hard sometimes with content creating. Writing scripts and trying to put this out by a certain day. Oh, I think I'll have this video done by next Friday. I really have started to resent saying things like that, because again, like weeks over here tend to be so chaotic that you just can't tell. Like I would like for something to come out in the next few days, but it's like I have tomorrow off. I don't think I'm going to be doing anything tomorrow. I hope not. Again, you just don't know. You hope. You're pleading, you're begging, please don't let anything happen tomorrow where I have to, go out and go on an adventure. Please. Please. But you don't know what's going to occur. And if something happens, then you're just kind of going to have to, deal with it. So it's always just a matter of seeing whatever creeps up. No, I gave myself the mission of trying to go up to the bank today. It closes at 2 in the afternoon. I figured I go to sleep in like the morning hours, like 6 or 7. I'll probably be able to wake up at like 12 or 1, and then head over there and get it done in that final hour. Because they're closed tomorrow, so it's just like it has to be today, or you have to wait until Monday. which is another work day, so it's even more like Mm. I remember once I was thinking about making the top 10 singers. I don't think I could do that. There's a lot of bands I like, a lot of singers where they might be really well known to people, but I only like one song. Um, it would be pretty hard. I always say I'm pretty versatile when it comes to music. Like I'd say country's probably my least favorite genre, but yeah, that doesn't mean everything that's come out of it is just horrendous or anything. It's just not something I'm the most interested in. It is what it is, though. I guess there's always something just popping off. I said, and it's crazy. Just to go back to this from the beginning of the stream. I said it's sad how like the MCU used to be this big, huge, giant event, and now a movie comes out, and I don't even like think about it. Like, oh, uh, Deadpool and Wolverine came out, okay, or versus Wolverine, whatever the title was. Can't remember the title anymore. Like I said, I truly hope that movie's able to do what they think it'll do because it's not looking too good for them. I really, really hope that that film does what they would like it to do. Really, really hope. I keep having the mental image of Deadpool and Wolverine with like charging the Genki Dama together, Spirit Bomb, just to give the MCU some energy, and then the movie makes like $2 billion and it recuperates all of Disney's losses from the past year and a half. We still have no idea what in the world Avengers 5 is supposed to be. Thought it was Kang, but I guess not. I mean, I already gave my opinion of it. It doesn't give me what I want, but if somebody else wants to indulge in it, then they can be my guest. Mm. Glad all the animals finally stopped making their noises. I feel so relieved. It's a miracle. I don't know how people deal with that every night where they just 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. So yeah, sometimes I really feel like I live in a zoo. Like it's a zoo at the job and a zoo over here. You have the actual animals in the neighborhood, and then the people that act like animals at the job. They are all over the place. Like just the lack of humanity is really scary. Oh boy. That's the one thing I like about the streams at this time. Just the heat is a lot more subdued than it is during the day. During the day, it's like really, really crazy. I've sometimes had drinks where the ice will melt entirely within, I think, a minute of getting it because it's just the heat pouring down, just destroying it. It's I said, "Oh my god." Tell what? What am I supposed to tell? Just trying to figure out what am I supposed to tell? What is this this big mystery I'm going to reveal? I hope it's not another one of those. How tall are you? I already said how I thought of what I thought of it. That's old news. I literally answered when you first came. I was like, if you want to do it, be my guest. Like I said, they're whatever to me. All this stuff about relationships and pay this person that is whatever. So if you want them, you can have them. Who's living? What does that even mean? Average looking, good looking, what? Oh, I didn't even know they went live yesterday. That's another thing with YouTube and these notifications. They put up videos and you'll click it, and then like all of a sudden it starts you from the beginning, or you'll get like teleported and the stream chat is off by like 10 seconds of what they get on my nerves. No, the whole way this site is set up sometimes just drives me crazy. And now the person asking me weird questions is asking if I'm on something. I guess if I don't answer a question in a specific way in which you would like it, then I'm apparently doing drugs. Makes a lot of sense. It's very, very, very logical, normal response to give to somebody. And every morning is like this, I tell you. They have these coffee places opening up in an hour, but I usually only use them for just probably like once a week. And now I barely go to them because I just sat back and I said, if I can spend $10 on something, is it really going to be a crappy drink with some little trinket that I'll probably be hungry from in like 2 hours anyway or 3 hours. So ever since then, I've just been kind of staying away from it. All right, so for the only reason I was really going to Starbucks anyway was just to use their Wi-Fi because in staying over there, you had the other people there and they were there all day long. And if you try to stream, one of them's in the room or they're coming in there or making some noise. So really, ever since, I mean, that was what initiated the whole early morning stream thing because then I knew I didn't have to worry about being interrupted because they were sleeping. You know, it's going to be another one of those weeks. 4 shifts. They have me for every weekday except Tuesday, and then off next weekend. But who knows what'll be the case after this week because they don't update things until the week before. So I won't know what the schedule after this week is until the 30th, and that's assuming that that they actually are normal and decide to give me the regular, like, 3 to 4 days. Like I said, it's all just so crooked and fluctuating and shifting and switching and all the rest of that. This is actually kind of insane. But no, it's just one of those things where it's been a really turbulent week in terms of news and just work related stuff. Um, I probably wouldn't even try to like deal with those people up there again. Like after that stuff in February, I really stay away from most of them, especially those rancid girls, because they're always looking to throw somebody off a bridge. And I think I forgot to use the bookmark, which is just great. And I was trying to explain to this boneheaded guy that you can get in trouble over anything with these chicks that work at these jobs because what they'll do is they'll take something like, oh, you smiled at me, oh, you stood by me, and they'll like make it out to be this big thing of how scared they were and they're all so frightened and whatnot. And he was telling me to, get over it. And they're not thinking, it's like, dude, that's not the point. If someone tries to destroy you over saying hello to them or in any way over trying to be nice to them, you're not going to forget that because you're always going to be worried that another one will try doing the same thing again. So he's delusional. But like I said, all these guys learn the hard way that these chicks are not their friends. I'd rather you not have to learn it that way, but some people just they don't take those hints. Like I said, after that incident in February, the misreading was over. I know exactly what I'm dealing with. Just another example in like the whole insanity. That's why I said I can't get invested in any of this relationship stuff anymore. Because even when you're just trying to be friends with someone, like, hey, want to go see a movie together? I'll let you know. And just day after day, week after week, month after month, you just cannot get this thing you want. It's really crazy. That's why I said everything with them just is so dragged out and rancid to where you're like, okay, well, I guess if this is as good as it gets, then why even bother in the first place? Oh, I hear the rooster again. I spoke too soon. I should have said that I didn't. I made the mistake of thinking the owners were like, "Hey, turn this thing off." Nope, it's still going. Thought they went out there and showed it 1-4, but nope, still making noise. Just so annoying. Yeah, I think we've pretty much wrapped this up. I mean, you know, I got on here. I said most of what I wanted to say. There's probably a little bit more stuff I could go into. There was one kind of funny thing, but I'll probably keep it until was that next Tuesday, whichever day I'm available to not have to do the grind of the work schedule. Um, but yeah, I still can't believe it's been that long since I joined this site. And the one thing I can say about the last 2 years is there has been a very noticeable shift in terms of just how many eyes are on me. So I guess that's one thing I can say changed. But yeah, I'll probably I'll try again, right? Try to stream again probably on Tuesday. I'm not gonna make any promises though, because again, each day is just this chaotic mess. So thanks for showing up or watching rather, and have a good rest of your weekend.